것을 않아.
Back, I promise.
fire makes the city look so bright. Close your eyes and just stay tight. We have to go. Stay with me while we leave. Don't worry, just believe me. This journey will relieve us. Stay with me while we leave. Stay with me while we leave. Don't worry, just believe me. This journey will relieve us. Stay while we leave. Stay with me. Stay with me while we leave. Don't worry, just believe me. This journey will relieve us. Stay with me while we leave. Stay with me while we leave. Don't worry, just believe me. This journey will relieve us. Stay with me while we leave. Stay with me.
right, dude. I need better music. I gotta get a gamer music, dude. Gay. No, it's alright. It's just anyways, we're basically gonna like jump right into it. I don't want to spend too much time doing it because I do want to pull. But obviously, Nick Fuentes, Piers Morgan debate. They were debating. So everybody's crying about it. It's great. That's the main takeaway. Main takeaway is that everyone is want to be triggered. Is triggered. That's good. The boomers are completely out of touch. Don't get it. They don't make sense to them. Exactly. That's really that's it, honestly. That's like the whole thing. But we'll get into it. Let's I think we do this one. What a crock of shit. Bloody hell, mate. The Queen. Like, who cares, Piers? Sorry, we haven't even started yet, but I've had enough, dude. First of all, I've had enough of the Brit bongers and the rest of like, look, I even don't like I even agree with, I don't know, some of the Nick points and some of the other like Wignats and all these like further right people about like I have a lot of sympathy towards the right whatever global minority, the demographic. I'm not a fan of it, okay? But at the same time, like, dude, and in the world, like globally, like white people are minority. But dude, I am tired of hearing about I'm tired of hearing it from fucking British people about how America should be run. British people, fucking Australians, fucking Spanish, the Italian, the whoever, dude, fuck you guys. You guys you can only survive out of the good nature, the goodwill of the American art. Okay? None of your countries have a functional military in terms of like global superpower. In the context of like, can you fend off Russia? Can you fend off China? You guys are all cooked. Okay. So even if you all band together, NATO is a joke. Okay. If America leaves NATO, NATO's a fucking joke. So I do get really fucking tired of hearing it from people like Piers Morgan and everybody else. And I don't care whether you're sympathetic to my side or not. I don't care if you agree with me or disagree with me. I don't want to hear it from Brits. Anyways, that being said, we're gonna let us listen. So anyways, let's get into it.
Hey, what that says about our society and our culture is the subject of ferocious debate. For many people, it's a grave indictment of an insidious immorality. For others, he's a product of a culture which has turned on its own and left many young people feeling listless and bitter. He's either a litmus test for right-wing hypocrisy on free speech or a walking, talking manifestation of where the lines should be drawn. And a frankly preposterous amount of airtime has been spent on debating everything from his ideology to his sexuality and whether anyone should actually talk to him at all.
If I were writing a glossary entry on the Streisand effect, I wouldn't put a picture of her next to it. I would put a picture of Nick Fuentes.
They have opted to
That
not
that
do
guy
so
is a
when it comes to
complete,
not.
utter libtard. I have a close friend that knows that guy personally. That so we won't get too into. But yeah, that guy is a dumbass. Okay, he's all in, dude. It's pure horse blinders on, progressive Marxist programming to the hilt.
Nazis like Nick Fuentes.
Fuentes takes this guy apart brick by brick. It's a full takedown.
My concern is that people who
Okay, nobody
used
cares.
to.
Let's get into it.
So for those of you who know nothing about Nick Fuentes, I want this to be an opportunity to get to the real person. I don't know who that person is.
So it's funny too because he does a pretty good job of do a good job of sort of like almost making Nick a little comfortable, and I thought that was actually a good tactic given his goals. Like I don't think it was good for him ultimately. Like in the larger picture of like how this plays out, nobody's moved on either side of this, but the whole point of this is to like be like a huge slop fest, heaping all these clips at Nick and what do you have to say about that? What do you have to say about that? What do you? So he did do an okay job, especially coming off of Steve Crowder, and he's like a little more like maybe it won't be like a full blown bitch fest.
But I do want to use this opportunity to get there. I've seen you talk as we prepared for this in exchanges with people and on your show, saying you fear it's going to be very hostile, it's going to be an ambush, all those kind of things. I don't intend it to be overtly hostile. I don't intend to ambush you. I intend it to be an examination of what you said on the record, an examination of what you believe or what you say you believe, and an examination of what your rising popularity says about the state of the conservative movement in America. So those are my goals from this interview. What are your goals? Why are you doing it?
I thought it'd be interesting. And, you've talked a lot about me on your show over the years, and this is the first time you actually extended the invitation. I think it might be the second, actually. I think we talked about doing it during A24 a few years ago, but you've talked a lot about me with the panel, and now you've extended the invitation to talk to me. And I think it'd be interesting for me to maybe clarify some positions and maybe get to know you a little better as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah.
There is a belief that you have two personas. There's one that you roll out now for podcasts and for shows like mine, where you come across as reasonable. And then there's your show on Rumble, where you often come across as having, a very unreasonable view on things. This is what Coleman Hughes said about you.
Nick Fuentes knows exactly what he's doing. He is consciously playing this double game as part of a long-term strategy to become popular enough to take the reins of power, at which point he plans to pivot towards the extreme and unpopular policies that he advocates daily on Rumble.
So first of all, what is your response to that?
Well, first of all, I would say that Coleman Hughes is a propagandist. He works for the Free Press, which is run by Barry Weiss. So I think you have to consider the source. And Barry Weiss is a pro-Israel partisan. Free Press is just bought out by CBS for $150 million
Weiss is like a former IDF.
By Larry Ellison or his son David Ellison. And so I think that's coming from a particular point of view. We can't pretend like that's coming from a vacuum or from some fixed position. That's coming from a propaganda outlet that's in favor of Israel. That's first. But second, I would say he is right about the two personas. And I think that everybody understands this on some level. On my show, I make jokes and I use rhetoric and I'm hyperbolic because for a long time, I had an audience that was small on these like dissident platforms. I was on D Live for many years. A lot of people don't even know what that is. And so I had a small following and we had sort of like an in-group sense of humor.
He lets him
You said this, we're looping. You said this already. And they would be having dinner in the projects and there'd be so much chaos and dysfunction and disagreement and fighting. and she would look across the way out the window at a black family.
Oh, this
you
is
also shared another story about your family and restaurants. So before me,
this was such a piece of shit move. Even if like, even if he actually believed that Nick Fuentes is coming from like this giga racist, you know, first of all, he would have had more evidence. I'll let it play. I won't poison.
Me and my sister were born. My family had a saying about Olive Garden that contains the N word that we're not allowed to say. So my question, based on that anecdote that you say on your own podcast, is do you think you grew up in a racist environment, that your father was inherently racist, and that thought process moved to you?
Well, I would say it's a new low. I've been attacked for being a racist many times, but to attack my father, to attack my parents based on anecdotes, I would say that's sort of a new low.
Hang on, it's your anecdote.
Yeah, but he's not here to defend himself.
You are.
And my parents are.
You told the story.
And I will. And I'll
I'm not trying to
ambush
ambush you. As I said at the start, Nick, to be clear.
No, it's not an ambush.
Nick, to be clear,
I think
I'm not
understands.
ambushing you. I'm literally.
He's such a dickhead. He was trying to just kick the interview off with something that he thought would piss him off. I think he was honestly trying to see if he could get Nick to like rage quit with this remark, and just because he keeps hammering on it. I mean, even towards the end of the interview, I think he'll bring it back up.
Reading an anecdote that you revealed on your podcast. It's you that's put it in the public domain.
I know.
I'm simply asking you whether my assessment of that, which is that your father didn't want to take you to certain restaurants because of what you refer to as, they were commonly known as black fare, whether that attitude to African Americans in that instance permeated to you. It's a reasonable question.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think everybody knows what that is, but I'll address it. I'll engage with it, and I'll defend my father from the charge of racism.
Sure.
No, my parents are not racist, and they've never been racist. I'll tell you about my parents. They used to have a school in Chicago in the South Loop where they instructed people on how to shoot firearms. It was a security school, and most of the clients were black. And I believe actually one of their clients was Larry Hoover's son at one point, sort of a funny story. And so most of their clients would come in from the south side of Chicago. My grandmother, she grew up in the projects in the city. And so my family, being in Chicago, being ethnics, being Italian, Irish, Mexican, on the west side, on Taylor Street, all over the city. My family for many generations have lived near and around black people. And look, my views about black people and their views about black people are shaped with experiences with black people. And what they will tell you, what my parents would say if they were here, is that for many, many years, the older generations of black people were very respectful, very humble, very decent. In fact, my grandma used to have an anecdote. She grew up in a lot of dysfunction. Her mother was mentally ill, and they would be having dinner in the projects, and there'd be so much chaos and dysfunction and disagreement and fighting. And she would look across the way out the window at a black family in the other apartment, and they'd be holding hands around the table saying grace. And this is sort of the culture that used to prevail. But now what you have in the city is that there's no accountability for the black people. And now Chicago has become a complete dump because these teenagers go out and they take over the city. They call them teen takeovers. That's the euphemism for it. They're teenagers, but they all come from the same neighborhood. They drive up there and they mug people and attack people, and they destroy cars and destroy shops. We had the Festival of Lights a couple of weeks ago. It's supposed to be a family event. And they light up the trees, and they, there's a big parade. I was in the parade one year, and you had a bunch of black people there shooting each other. 7 people shot, a 14-year-old killed in the Magnificent Mile. And I know there's a lot of black people that feel the same way about this. They say, we've lost control of the city, and we're looking for accountability. We have a lot of black people that are always outraged about racism, outraged about attitudes from white people, but they're never ashamed of some of these behaviors, never ashamed of some of the things that go on. And that's why I think there's a lot of negative attitudes these days. And so, again, I think those attitudes, you say I'm a product of my environment. I am. And so are my parents and my grandparents. Unlike you, because you're not even American, in Chicago, we have to live in a big, diverse city where there's a lot of different kinds of people. And I think anybody in Chicago will tell you the same.
I live in London. It's one of the biggest and most diverse cities in the world.
But it's not the same.
Well, actually, it's a big diverse city. The only difference is we don't have the gun violence because we don't have guns. That's a whole different story. I don't want to get into that with you.
Yeah, but it's not the guns, dude. Even without the guns, the violence.
I have got into that before.
You got
in America.
a knife problem. You got sword problems.
We have problems with
Aladdin.
We have problems with violent crime. I make no pretense of it. So the idea that somehow I'm cosseted in London because I'm not in Chicago.
I didn't say that.
Well, you kind of implied it, but I guess my point about the environment, I'm not saying you are a product of your environment. I'm saying most people are in some capacity. When I read that...
And why not just say, like, just say what you were trying to say? Like, stop being evasive. Stop being a weird, like, oh, no, I'm not saying that. It's just like these the praxology guys, right? It's like the annoying ass fucking red pill retards on. They'll say all this stuff and they'll basically allude to a thing, and then when you attack that and you're like, dude, this is a dumbass idea. They're like, well, I'm not putting any prescriptions out there. I'm just saying this is the way things are. And I'm just like, then I'm also that maybe sound like a solution, but not actually. Like, all right, dude, well then shut the fuck up. So it's like, don't bring that up and then be like, oh yeah, most people are a product of their environment. I'm not saying like you are. I'm just saying like most people are. And then you made this comment. So I'm like, are you or it's like, just say it with your chest, dude.
Anecdote. It's just to remind you, it's not something I have put out there. You told this story, right? And you said that
you said this. We're looping. You said this already.
But you haven't really directly, I think, responded to it, which is whether your father would not take you to certain restaurant chains because he associated them with Black Americans. Is that true?
No. Well, see here, if you're in America, you would say that Olive Garden is not real Italian food. Applebee's, TGI Fridays, this stuff is a load of crap. My dad was just a food snob, but no, it's got nothing to do with that. My best friend in first grade was a Black guy. We're not a racist family. So
okay. So when you told the story, I'm just curious. So when you told that anecdote, which clearly on the face of it is racist, right? You're basically saying your father made racist decisions about where you would go as a family to eat.
Are you saying? Weak. Like, I don't understand.
I'm just going to ask you a question. Are you saying?
Well, I mean, I do actually. Like, the audience that this is targeting is progressives and like boomer conservatives, like the same boomers that caused this fucking all these problems to begin with. Same boomers that walked us into the hellscape that we're in now. I mean, like, so it's like we don't care about, like, even the progressives don't give a shit about the boomers.
That when you told that story, you didn't mean to infer that he was racist. And do you understand why when somebody like me reads that anecdote for the first time, as I did this week, I reach a different conclusion?
Well, I understand what you're doing, which is a sort of making of a murderer. How did he become racist? Well, his father didn't eat an Olive Garden because he said that's not real Italian food. Hang on, can I? What's with the interruptions? Can I explain?
I'm literally reminding you of something you said on your show, which led me to conclude a certain thing. If I'm wrong, tell me.
Yeah, it was said in jest as a humorous anecdote, and now you're trying to spin it into a narrative, which is his parents are racist. He comes from a long line of racists. And I think everybody knows my parents are boomers. Mm-hmm. And these people come, well, you're a boomer, I guess, too, in a way, 60. Right? You were born in
60.
19? Yeah. So you're a boomer also. Or maybe you're a Gen Xer. I suppose it's sort of on the cusp. But it's a humorous anecdote. These are kind of the attitudes of baby boomers in society. But you're trying to spin it into a narrative, which is you're a product of your environment. Your dad's racist because of this joke. Now you're a racist. And I don't think that's a fair characterization.
Okay. People can make their own minds up. They can go back and listen to you say it. I mean, the beauty of what I'm going to talk to you about in this interview is that almost all of it is just going to be reminding you what you have said and asking you what you meant. Your position
The thing about the internet is that the whole context is there for everybody. Now, he definitely says some crazy things, and you don't have to agree with it. Most of it, I think, is for the effect that it eventually has on Piers. Like, he's getting into it now. He's just getting warmed up now, but later on, like, he's actually mad that, you know, Nick Fuentes says he doesn't believe that, you know, hold on a second. Let me figure out. All right. Little see. Like, hello? Does it seem seems like it's hello? Before we spend half the stream with dogs. Let's see. All right, is that any better? Mic check. Hello, hello. All right, I think we're good now. the filter with like the sound, the noise gate was like too high, so I think it was cutting my voice super early. Anyways, let's get back into it. We had a little.
That story is that it was a joke, okay? I want to come to something else you said. This is where you talk about Jews, women, and blacks. Let's just take a listen.
There are always
always coming up with, no, it's not the Jews. No, it's not women. No, it's not blacks. It's actually really complicated. No, it fucking isn't at all. Jews are running society. Women need to shut the fuck up. Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. And we would live in paradise. It's that simple.
Okay.
All right.
Would you like?
If you're watching that, you can tell, first of all, okay, you can tell he's smiling, he's laughing the whole way through it. He's obviously being, you know what I mean, hyperbolic on purpose.
Like to clarify what you meant there?
That's all true. That's 100% true. Everything I said in that clip is true.
Including that blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, all of them?
No, for the most part.
What does the most part mean? What percentage of American blacks would you like to see in prison?
Whatever the percentages of the murderers. I think it's 1 in 20 black men will commit a murder in their lifetime. So maybe let's say that, 5%.
Oh, so you're talking about black people who murder people?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But you didn't say that.
That's
You just said
problem.
blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part.
Good job,
You didn't
Piers.
clarify that you were talking about black murderers.
Right.
Way to step on the bit,
you're right.
Piers.
That's a good addition to that. That's a great point.
You think it's funny or?
I think, yeah, I do. I think it's hilarious. I think it's totally true.
Do you think a black?
Yes, Piers. It's everybody but you and these dumbass boomer fucking generations, and then the retarded progressive shit libs. Like everybody else, yes, everybody else agrees and thinks it's funny. People have been making racial jokes for all of human history. Okay, on the opposing end, the receiving end, on all ends, everybody can get some. Black comedians make jokes about white people, about black people, but everybody does this, okay? So it's like, dude, chill out. Fucking boomer.
American find it funny? You think that blacks should be imprisoned for the most part?
Blacks are my biggest fans. I get high fives all the time. They say, Nick Fuentes, I love your show.
Crazy.
They agree with me. And you want to know why? Here's the difference. Black people are the most victimized by other black people. You think black people want to live in the hood and the ghetto and get shot all the time? That's what happens in the south side of Chicago. You should come here. I'll take you there. We could go to Garfield Park.
My son went to Chicago University for a year.
My son went to Chicago University for a year. What? Okay.
Actually, several years ago.
Yeah, that's a bubble.
Several
that's a
years
bubble.
ago.
You think you're in Chicago and Hyde Park? You don't know Chicago. Go a little bit west, see what it's like over there. And I'll tell you, black people agree with me because they're tired of it too. And maybe not most of them, but a lot of them agree with what I say about that because they know how it is. That's why the first thing they do when they make a little bit of money is they go and leave to another neighborhood.
Okay, so what was just remind me again, the percentage of black men who commit murder in America. What was the percentage you gave me?
Here we go. We got
20.
that. This is the funny thing. The funny thing is that he wasn't even debating. This is where I think it gets even worse that Piers Morgan loses this debate is the fact that, and I don't even mean from like an ideological, you can totally disagree with Nick Fuentes and like everything he has to say. In this box over here is all of Nick's ideas. And here, the problem is that Piers never even attacks any of the ideas. He just kind of flails about and he tries to do like this moral grandstanding thing. And so the worst part about that, so like objectively, he just loses the debate. But you're not debating mano y mano. So if it's just mano y mano, then that'd be bad enough. You know, it'd be like, okay, this old boomer, fogey lost the debate. He's not as sharp or whatever. But it's Piers and his whole team. He's got 4 guys at fucking desks, scrambling through. He's got people preparing the next clip and the next clip. He's got people in his ear giving him feeding him lines, just in case he needs them. You know what I mean? That's how these shows work, right? So it's like you and your whole team lost. So that's kind of crazy too. It's kind of funny to me.
1 in 100.
No, it's 1 in 20.
No. Less than 1 in 100 black US men commit murder. That's the most up-to-date crime statistics in America.
That's not true. I've seen other statistics. They say 1 in 20 will eventually commit a murder.
So your rate means
Let's see, because I think we looked this up. Actually,
So you're saying that 5 times as many black men commit murder as the official
and
crime
I think what he
statistics say.
did here, to be fair, like technically he's wrong, but I think what he was after is, or I think what he was citing was actually the violent crime like arrest rate, which is definitely that high, and the murder rate. It was by Data Hazard is the one that he's talking about. And I think Data Hazard reposted it after. Let's see if I can find it. Because I think he reposted it once, like after Nick mentioned it on the show. Okay. Let's see. Where's the one? I thought he posted it since it was kind of like mentioned. Come on. Here we go. .5% of men born in 1974 ended up in prison before turning 35 years old. 2.2% of that cohort were victims of homicide by the age of 35. That's just crazy statistics, though. Like, and even if it's 1 in 100, that's crazy. That those numbers are insane. Like, that's not normal. Like, if you're going based off of the population, you would assume that 65% of the murders are committed by white people because they make up 65% of the population. 13% are committed by black people because they commit, because they're 13% of the population, and so on and so forth, right? Hispanic or others or Chinese or whatever being at 4 and 15 and whatever, respectively. You would expect to see those numbers all being close to the percentage of what their total populace is, or total percentage of the population is, but it's not. And so that's all he's pointing out. That's fair. I mean, it's like in any other case, if it's any other person saying it, Piers wouldn't have a problem with this. I'm pretty sure. Oh man, I meant to look that up. I'm pretty sure someone was just on Piers Morgan talking about this. I thought it was Andrew or maybe somebody else. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can find it, but and Piers he didn't bat an eye. Yeah, I'm not going to find it. I should have grabbed it before the stream. But anyway, so we'll continue.
Yeah, there's a report, I believe, on X by Data Hazard. I'll have to go and double check that for you. But yes, there's some pretty shocking evidence that says that it's far more alarming than you would think.
Okay, but you would accept that the official crime statistics are 1 in 100, or you wouldn't accept that statistic?
I don't know. I don't have it in front of me, but I've seen other evidence. Like I said, Data Hazard on X, I believe, produced a report about a year ago. It said 1 in 20. But I mean, whether it's 1 in 20 or 1 in 100, that's a lot of people, Piers. I mean,
sure,
this is
a lot of white
problem.
people commit murder too. Well, they do, don't they?
Okay, but it's about proportionality. I mean, white people are 65% of the population. Blacks are 13%. Mm-hmm. And I think anybody would tell you that more black people proportionally commit violent crime than white people, and people vote with their feet. People would rather pay a much higher property tax.
Most mass shootings.
What's with the interruptions?
I'm sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You look at in Chicago, in New York.
This is the post I think he's mentioning. Which is crazy. I mean, this is crazy proportionally. Like, and this is why he presses him later on, and he's like, because he knows what per capita is. Piers is smarter than that. But he does, and literally this line that he's about to go down is a standard like progressive talking point like dialogue tree. It's like, well, don't you know that like white people commit like X amount of murders? And it's like, well, yes, of course, they are going to commit the most murders in the country because they are the majority population. What we're talking about is out of the total amount, I have 100 white people and I have 100 black people. Out of the 100 white people, 1% or less will commit a murder. Out of the black people, it's like 5%. It's like 5 of those 100 people will commit a murder. Out of the 100, it's like a half of a person, a point. So it's like that's what we're talking about. We're talking about per capita. Like most people can understand fractions. And I know Piers Morgan understands this because he's made an argument using per capita before on his show. And he's had people on that are using an argument making per capita, and he understands and he lets them make the argument. So he's like
these
playing
neighborhoods are
willfully
so
ignorant.
stratified. People would rather pay a high tax rate. They'd rather pay.
And he is, and I think Nick Fuentes calls him out for this, but he makes a comment to the extent that like you're just carrying water for progressives at this point, carrying water for liberals, which is totally accurate because he's not going to overtly say I'm on the left, but he is. He considers himself like
a much higher property value to live in a less diverse, less black neighborhood because they don't want to live around the violence. And I think that when you look at even on the public transit, the subway, the blue line, people don't want to go there because they know who occupies and menaces the public transit. It is these people like Daniel Penny had to deal with. It's people like Irina Zarutska had to deal with. And that's just the uncomfortable reality.
You've also said you don't want to live near black people. Let's take a listen to this clip.
I'm a new generation of white person. I'm not living around blacks. Sorry. I want white kids, and I don't want my white kids bringing home black people to marry. It's racial for me. And call me racist. Oh, very Christian of you. I don't give a fuck.
I mean, it couldn't be clearer, really, unless you want to say
I can't help like he's just nodding along because I think he knew that this was going to happen, and he just clearly didn't give a shit. And I think that's the best way to approach it. You know what I mean? What's up, Raw? Yeah, I mean, this is the only way to handle it. I mean, because it doesn't matter. And this is the thing. You cannot apologize. If you apologize, it doesn't matter. They're going to go for the jugular anyways. It's going to be like, oh, I'm sorry. And then it's like, oh, that's great. Thank you for apologizing. Now face the wall. Like, they don't care. They don't. Boomers and progressives are raping the world and they could care less. You're with them or you're against them. And then if you're against them and you try to convert, you're going to become Syme like in 1984. Okay. You're going to get killed. It's just a matter of time. They don't give a shit.
Another of your jokes, but you're basically saying, yeah, I'm a racist, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
You're fine with saying you're a racist?
Totally. I think everybody's racist. I think everybody, if we're being honest, is racist. I think everybody, the only people that aren't racist or pretend not to be are white people to their detriment. Everybody else is racist.
But earlier in the interview,
the only thing that I think too that Nick did miss here was the opportunity to get Piers to give a definition of racism, because this would actually be good, because Piers, who just wrote a fucking book on that's titled "Woke is Dead," okay, is out here doing the things that he's, you know what I mean, that he's critiquing in his book, and that he's saying, all these things, and that we need to be able to talk and have free speech and blah, 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 right? But then he's doing the same thing. He's throwing the labels out. He's trying to pin you with all these labels. And he knows that Nick is uncancelable, obviously, because Nick has been this way for a while. And in spite of that, has gained a tremendous amount of attention and traction in the past, definitely in the past 2 years. But over the past 5 or 6 years, it's really been climbing. And so he knows Nick is not going anywhere. So what does he do? the first thing right off out the gate of the interview, he attacks his father, which I think is pretty fucked up. But if you look at it from a strategic standpoint, I mean, if they're gaming this out, him, and he's calling all his cohorts. I'm sure he's calling Tucker. Tucker's mad about whatever else. And, so they come up with a strategy and they think this is going to work, but ultimately it doesn't matter. It just makes you look like an asshole.
You really got aggrieved at.
Oh, but I was just going to say that he needed to ask him to define racism. I think the only useful definition we have right now would be belief in a racial hierarchy, which is like, and obviously most people who believe in a racial hierarchy probably place themselves at the top of the racial hierarchy. So that's probably the only useful definition. Everything else already had a word to describe it. You know what I mean? We already have prejudice and other words to describe those kind of behaviors. We don't need a new term for prejudice or other things like that. So crossing the street, to go the other way is not racist. You know what I mean? So I think that's maybe the only thing that Nick missed the opportunity to do would be to get him to define racism. And I think that would have put Piers in a tough spot because, like I said, he's trying to bill himself as like a classical liberal who's not, he's not a wokey. He's not into all the progressive nonsense, at least so he claims. And so that would have been actually pretty good.
The idea that your father was a racist, you
would have played well for.
Wanted to make emphatically
yeah, because
sure
my father's,
and it would have been good. Like it would have helped him defend his father, I guess.
He's not,
because my father doesn't share my same views on that.
So he's the exception to the everyone's a racist.
Well, everybody's a little bit racist. You're right. So maybe everybody. The difference is you're attacking my father. He could get fired from his job.
I'm not attacking your father.
You are.
No, I'm not. I don't know your father. And to be clear,
he's such a prick.
I have no knowledge about him at all.
Well, then let's leave him out of it. Let's leave him out of it if you don't know him.
Hang on, Nick. You put that story into the public domain on your show. I'm simply reminding you of what you told everybody, millions of people, about your father. If you now want to retract it, fine. If you want to say it was a joke, which is what your position was earlier, fine. But I'm allowed to put to you things you've said publicly. That's not unfair. That's not me targeting your father. You put that story about him out there.
You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing.
I'm asking you about a pretty shocking anecdote, which to me looked like you were saying your father made decisions about where you as a family would eat based on skin color of people who worked at these places. If you say, or use them, if you say that is not what you meant, that's fine. You can respond any way you like. But the idea I can't ask you about it without you saying I'm attacking your father is ridiculous.
Well, you are, and you know what you're doing. And there's a political culture in America where if you have the wrong views, you get fired from your job. And my father has a job. And if you go on here and say, you charge him with racism or something, and I'm put in a position where I don't look like I'm sticking to my guns if I don't say my father's a racist, you're putting him in jeopardy, and he's not here to defend himself or explain his views. And it's very low, and I think you know exactly what you're doing, and people can see what you're doing. I'll defend my views, and I think that, so let's leave him out of it.
He did handle it pretty good.
Let's just not talk about my father, because my father isn't here.
Pissed.
I'm here.
Okay, well, then do you accept that you shouldn't talk? Okay,
listen,
that's fine. But then do you accept you shouldn't talk about your father on your show? And you shouldn't tell...
Absolutely not. Absolutely
not.
So
it's fine for you to put a story out there which would make most people who listened to that story or watched it at the time on your show conclude that he was racist. It's fine for you to do that. But if I then ask you about it, I'm the one who's being unfair and I've crossed a line. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you're being malicious.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Listen, people are watching this live. They can draw their own conclusions.
And he says that. That's like his line throughout the whole thing. He just keeps saying over and over as if it's some kind of like dunk. I don't know if it's... I don't know what he thinks he's accomplishing, because he doesn't make any arguments. You know what I mean? He doesn't actually say like, well, I think that your position is flawed, your ideology is wrong, or your whatever is wrong because XYZ, and like this doesn't make any sense here, and if blah blah blah. He's just like, well, everybody can see what you are and what you said. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Fucking boomer. Dope stash. Thanks, man. Yeah, he did handle it pretty good. Because I don't know. I mean, dude, if somebody was talking about my mother, yeah, I would. Yeah, I would be furious. I would probably need to take 5. I'd be like, you know what? Because I'm just gonna fly off the handle, dude. Give me a minute. Be like, I got a bathroom break. Just disrespect the show. Be like, I'm gonna get. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go use the bathroom. I'll be back.
About whether what I just
And they
did.
will.
Yeah, and I'm sure afterwards, by the way, you'll say he ambushed me with your own with your own words.
Whoa,
with your own words.
That's a little presumptuous. I'm not going to say it's an ambush, but I think that's a low blow. And
but it's not it's only not an ambush though, because he literally says, like word for word before the show, somebody posted a clip of like the before and after, and it was like Nick basically saying exactly what was going to happen during the interview, and then it's like, you know, obviously that's exactly what happened in the interview, and then it, you know, his response after, which is basically what he just said there. He's like, well, I'm not going to say it's not an ambush because I know exactly how this is going to go. It's, you know, it's different when it was like Candace Owens, and Candace Owens has him on and he thinks it's going to be like, you know, you're in the middle of the Iran war or conflict, whatever, and all this stuff is breaking news, breaking headlines every day, and then it just turns into like a clip show and like a, you know, farming for interaction.
I think you know what you're doing, and that's fine. You're a tabloid journalist. I expected that. I don't think it's an ambush because I knew it would be like this. And people will see what you're doing, and I think they'll say it's low. But as far as you want to talk about racism,
I do.
Let's talk about racism.
Okay,
Let's leave my dad out of it.
Look, you've admitted you're a racist, correct?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Own it.
Okay, that's fine. You're perfectly entitled.
See, that's why I said it. That's the only reason why I think that's funny. Okay. But I know that there are going to be other people who are not just boomers. There's going to be a handful of people who are like, oh, I can't really get behind that. Like, we have a lot of conservatives who are in like mixed race relationships who are going to be like, if this is the first, you know, introduction they have to Nick, they're going to be confused. You know what I mean? But he's not actually, though, because he is a Catholic and he does take the Catholic position or the Christian position that we're all equal images of God, the creator. So no, there's actually not any, but there's no like greater or worse race, but there are attributes. You know what I mean? It's like the same way that men and women are created equal in the image of God. That doesn't mean we're equal in terms of what we can do and what our skill sets are and talents are in the real world. You know what I mean? Men cannot breastfeed babies. And we're not the greatest like nurturers and caretakers in the same way that women are in terms of like molding children and raising them and teaching them and guiding them in some ways. Like men are good at guiding boys and men in other directions and being examples to their daughters and different things like that. But we're not equal. You know what I mean? So there is a difference. So it would have been good if he, like I said, would have defined the terms first before he agreed to that label, because to the progressive or anybody left of center nowadays, I mean, just being like, I don't apologize for my ancestors is, you're a racist now. You're a white supremacist. You're a Nazi. Like, just not apologizing is enough to cancel you. And that's how that's how, you know, they get Charlie Kirk and other things like that. It's first, you don't go and say somebody needs to go kill Charlie Kirk. They say we need to kill all Nazis, and then you just label everybody that disagrees with you a Nazi, and then people put 2 and 2 together, and you don't say we need to kill Charlie Kirk. You say, man, we need to kill these Nazis, and then you just keep calling the guy a Nazi, and then you keep saying the thing how we keep, you know, we really need to kill these people, and that's how you get that. So, and you'll get more of that. He likes to push the envelope and he feels it doesn't. Yeah, no, I get it. I think it's funny. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that's maybe the only criticism on Nick's end that I would say. I would have said to Nick, maybe, hey, maybe try to, you know, he's going to call you a racist. Get him to define this, and it's good on a couple fronts because, like I mentioned, And like I said earlier, it's also really good because it's going to cause Piers Morgan a lot of trouble because Piers just wrote a book called Woke is Dead. And he's had criticisms of people who overuse these terms racist and homophobic and transphobic and all this other bullshit. So it actually would have played well, it would have been in his favor or, worked well for him to actually get him to define that first.
In a free democratic society, to stare down the barrel of his camera and tell me you're a racist. People can judge you accordingly. Many people who have assumed that you're a racist will now have heard it from your own lips. That's fine.
There you go.
That's the point. The point of this interview is to go over the things you've said, which have led people to reach conclusions about you, and to ascertain whether those conclusions are fair and reasonable or not. That's it.
Thank
so I want
you.
to play you another clip. This is what you talk about why white people are justified in being racist. Let's take a listen to this.
First, white people are every single bit justified in being racist. Every single bit justified, to the extent that that means going out of your way to avoid black people when you see them.
You stand by that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So white people should go out of their way to avoid.
See, and I think it's funny that these pauses. Like, I don't know if he thought that. I don't know what he thought. I guess is really what I'm trying to say. Like what are you thinking? Like, what do you think is going to happen here? Did you think that he was going to squirm here and like because he's in front of a larger audience, he's just going to say, "Oh no, well that's not what I meant." I think that's honestly what he thought because when he looks like dumbfounded, like he's like waiting on his earpiece, like, "Oh fuck, guys, I wasn't ready for that. Somebody tell me in the earpiece what to say." And I think honestly, that's what happens throughout this whole interview. Every time he presses him on a thing, and he's like, "Yeah," and then Piers is like, "Well, shit, what do I do now?" I was expecting like to catch him in all these lies, and I think that Piers came into this thinking that he was the draw. I think Piers came into it thinking that he was bringing Nick in front of a huge audience, and the reality was that Nick brought a huge audience to watch him on Piers Morgan. So he's not gonna back away from what he believes.
People when they see them.
Absolutely. They would be wise.
Why?
Because it's a lose-lose proposition. If you're Irina Zarutska and you don't walk the other way, you get stabbed to death and you die. If you're somebody else and you walk on the subway and you stand near a black person or something, maybe it's fine. It's a lose-lose proposition. So no, I think that white people have been beaten into submission, that we're afraid to tell the truth about it. And the truth is that when you go into these major cities like New York or Chicago, I believe she was in North Carolina, there is a menace, which is young, black, adolescent men.
There in Charlotte. And it was crazy when I was there. And that was like in 2016, I think, or something, or 2015 maybe. And that was my 21st birthday. And we went down. So we were staying in the middle of the epicenter. And what's funny, this is what's funny. I called a black friend of mine who lived in Charlotte, and I was like, "Hey man, we're here doing like the Spartan race, and then we're like gonna go out maybe and have like drinks, like, like where should we go?" And like blah blah blah. And he was like, "Do you have any black friends with you?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He was like, "Do you have any black people with you?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Stay in the epicenter." He was like, "Don't go outside the epicenter." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So, and I didn't really think much of it. So we're going, and we finish the race. We go to the hotel, and we're like, I thought we were going to be tired because we just ran like an 8-mile obstacle course. And I think we're going to be tired, but then we finish and it's like, we all have kind of like a runner's high and we're like, yeah, we should go out and like get drinks or something. Well, but we didn't want to go pay. We didn't want to like pay, bar prices. We're like 21, we're all broke. And we don't want to pay full blast. So we're like, let's go pregame. Let's go get like a case of beer and like, maybe play a quick game of beer pong or like chug a couple, whatever, and then go out. Okay, so we look it up and the gas station's like a mile away, right? So we're like, hey, we just fucking ran 8 miles. Let's go walk a mile to the gas station. We walk to the gas station, and on the way there, we get like hollered at. Some guys like asking us like if we're cops, and we're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And it was like right at the peak. It was about to get like dark. So when we left, it wasn't dark yet, but we could tell like by the time maybe we got back, it was gonna be dark. So this guy's like asking us if we're cops because we're all like in our gray Spartan t-shirts or whatever. And they're like, we're like, no, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, you got to tell me if you're cops. We're like, whatever, dude. So we go into the bridge, we go to the gas station, we get our beer, we're coming out, and some guys like trying to get us to give them some beer, and we're like, no, what the fuck is going on? So we just started getting weird vibes. We were like, you know what? The hotel we're staying at has like a shuttle service. Let's just call the shuttle and get a fucking taxi back. So we did. And when we came back through, because we had to walk under this bridge, we came back through under the bridge. We're like fucking 30 people just standing there waiting. And I was like, dude, we were about to die for like 32 beers or some shit. Like, I don't even know. We had some beers and then we had like some Mad Dogs or some shit. We were young. I can't drink that shit anymore. But yeah, it was like, it's crazy. It was crazy then. I can't imagine how it's only gotten worse now. It seems like I see all the like the student walkouts during the, because of the deportations and all this shit. I'm like, so like half the city is illegal and the other half is trying to kill you. So poor arena.
They're extremely violent. And we have been told that we have to pretend like they are every other person. We have to be colorblind to that. And we're supposed to go and be in the midst of all this danger.
Oh, that's Soya.
And I think that
you
at
changed
this point,
your name.
It's gotten out of control. You look at the BLM movement, they said that the reason that black people, are violent, or the reason there's crime is because of police brutality, redlining, or all these other things. They said we need to get rid of the police. We need to defund them. And a lot of cities did. A lot of cities like Chicago, for example, the police changed the rules of engagement. They don't chase them. It's not a felony if you steal a certain amount of merchandise. They won't chase them on foot. And now the city's totally up for grabs.
And
now whether you're in the Gold Coast or whether you're on the Mag Mile or you're in the worst neighborhoods in the city, you might get shot, you might get mugged, someone might run up on you. And I tell my followers, it is better to be perceived as racist or racist and walk the other way and maybe keep your life than to say, I'm a good anti-racist. I don't mind that this person's making me uncomfortable. Maybe he's looking a little froggy. I'm going to sit down because I'm a good person and get stabbed, mugged, whatever. And by the way, this is a strategy. They call it the friendly stranger. There's a crew of them. They do this in Chicago. They stand outside bars, black people. They approach strangers. It's a robbery crew. And they pretend to be a friendly stranger, and then they mug them. And stupid white people say, oh, hi, yeah, nice to meet you. They grin, they laugh, they put up with the nonsense, and then they get mugged, or worse. Sometimes they get executed. And so as a white person...
How do you feel about mass shootings at school?
See, and it's like he just like he didn't even address anything he says. And this is what was so bad about this whole interview. Piers does this the entire interview. Nick will go on like a mini monologue and give a bunch of like points and explain why he feels the way he feels and why white people should feel the way they should feel, and backs it up with statistics and says this or says that or whatever. And then Piers just does shit like this, where it's like a complete whataboutism. It's like, how do you feel about me? And this is another typical progressive talking point. This is a standard dialogue tree that everybody who does this is familiar with. You say, well, how many people are, but really to the whole, how many people are shot in mass shootings? The kryptonite to that argument is just to point out how many there have been, because he doesn't answer this question. And Nick tries to press him and get him to do this. But he tries to get him on the, on like the per capita. Like he tries to get him to tell us, okay, this is how many school shootings. Now, how many white people commit school shootings as a total? Like, what is that percentage? Because it's going to be like 0.0001. Okay. But even if he doesn't want to answer that, you just point out that the total number of deaths from mass casualty events at schools or public places like that, schools, colleges, is like 430 since 1990, when this was popularized by Columbine or whatever it was, right? So that's the first big nuke to this whole argument, which is like, okay, so even if I grant you this, that yes, all the mass shootings are done by white individuals, the total number of deaths is like 500 over what, 40, 50 years now or whatever it is. I can't do math. 40 years. So, and then on top of that, again, it just goes back to the proportionality. It goes back to the percentage. It goes back to per capita. And it's not to say like, dude, I have plenty of black friends too. I have black family. I have in-laws that are black. I don't think that all black people are bad people, but I can understand the argument that he's making. I can understand why you would cross the road. I don't cross the road here, but that's because I know where I'm at. If I go to Atlanta, if I go to Chicago, when I was in DC streaming the Million MAGA March, I had a gun. We had the gun pulled on us. We live streamed it. So it's like, and it was by a black person. And we didn't even approach it. We were like over here. He starts jaw jacking at us about whatever, calling us racist because we have MAGA hats on. And we're like, dude, we're just out here like whatever. And some guys are going back and forth. Nobody said nothing. I mean, they could have easily just been like, yeah, and just like said some sideways words. But we had another black content creator with us. Like, you know what I mean? So it was like, they could have easily jaw jacked back. They could have easily just called him a slur and done something to piss him off, but they didn't. They tried to get him to engage and like point out where he's wrong or whatever. And the dude just like pulls his pant up and like brandishes a firearm on us. And we're like, dude, we're not even like approaching you. We haven't moved. So like we're crossing. He's like, he actually crossed the street from us because it's a bit, and I don't blame him. He's a progressive black guy. It's the middle of the night, and there's a big group of mostly white guys and like two black people with fucking MAGA hats on and holding a flag and shit. And he lives in DC. He's like, I don't want to fucking deal with this tonight. I don't blame him. He was crossing the street, like jaywalking across, and he just decided to start yapping at us. So, but we stopped where we were at, and then he's just like yapping at us over parked cars and shit like that. You know, and then that's when he brandished the firearm. But it's just crazy, man. It's just crazy. Yes. Yeah, nice. Yeah, that's good. Well, it's good to see you for sure. Good to hear from you. Hope you're doing well. I don't know if you know, but we got 2 little babies now. We're growing a family. I think you knew about the one, but not the second one. Anyways, I was trying not to hold this up too.
I think they're bad.
A little bit more.
Who do you think commits the vast majority of the mass shootings?
I'm sure it's white people.
Right. So how do you feel about that?
I think that white people do more antisocial violence. I think black people participate in more gang violence. I think that's the difference.
What's the difference to the victims?
See, and then he does it again. So then he's like, he makes a point, and then he just jumps to the next thing. Oh, well, what's the difference? What's the difference to the victims? It's like, what are we talking about? What are we fucking doing here, man? Like, can we be serious? Like, you're not even engaging at all. So now we're like 3 levels deep on, running away from points that are being made. Because first it was, I make all these points about why, because he says the whole thing is, why are white people justified in being whatever. He makes a bunch of points, and then Piers says, oh well, what do you think about this? What do you think about school shootings? And he's like, okay, yeah, sure. And then he makes a point about that, and then he's like, well, what difference does it make to the victim? So now we're on to the victim. So it's like, dude, come on.
No difference to the victim, but it's a different kind of crime, and it's a different proportion also. Do you know what percentage of
this whole thing just made me fucking hate boomers so much more.
white people are school shooters?
I know that the vast majority of mass shootings in schools in America.
And this is what pissed me off, because he's buying time. He's like, you know what I mean? There's several times in here where you can tell he's like buying time for the earpiece, and he's like waiting to see what the panel of guys. And that's why I said it's so bad, actually, that it's so much worse for Piers to lose this debate, because it's not like if you were in person sitting in chairs with each other with no earpiece on, that would be one thing. And it would be, honestly, it would be expected, because Nick's a younger, sharper guy. He debates, whatever. He has a history of it. And Piers is a little bit older. I mean, you would expect it to probably go in Nick's favor. Here, Piers has the entire studio in his fucking earpiece. And so Nick's not debating Piers Morgan. Nick is debating Piers Morgan Uncensored show. He's debating the entire crew there at Piers Morgan Uncensored, who are all in Piers Morgan's ear, and they're feeding him, information as he goes. So when you're sitting there buying time for people to feed you arguments into your earpiece, and you're still losing the debate, it's like, it's so much worse.
America this century were perpetrated by young white men. And I'm
and
just
what proportion of
and
what proportion?
I'm curious.
What proportion?
I'm curious whether your advice would be to people who have kids in these schools.
Is my mic working?
Should they
what proportion?
should they avoid white people at school? Should people with the kids at school avoid young white men?
See, and he misses it at first, but then he says it later on. But he basically says it that he's like, well, no, you shouldn't just avoid white people just to avoid white people. But if you see a weird antisocial guy, like a weirdo, and he's got his hood up and he reaches into his backpack, yeah, you should take the fuck off running. You know what I mean? Or you should give that guy a fucking candy bar every day. You should be nice to him. You should like dap him up, because you want him to shoot you last. So it's like, and he kind of says that later on. He's like, yeah, if there's an antisocial guy, yeah, totally, you'd be justified in avoiding that guy. And Piers again just zooms right past it. He fucking ignores it, because that's a concession in the opposite. So that affirms his position again. He's saying, no, that's not racist. That's just pattern recognition. That's just, you know what I mean? You're just paying attention.
No.
Okay.
Do you know what per capita means? Do you know proportionality? There are more black people proportionally that engage in violent crime or are involved in gangs, especially in these major cities, than there are white people that are school shooters.
Yeah, we're definitely
compared to the entire white population, and everybody understands that.
Two-thirds of mass shootings at school perpetrated by white people.
Literally doesn't make a difference.
But what proportion of white men commit school shootings? That's the question.
I've just told you. It's 60 to 65% of school shootings by white people.
You're telling me what proportion of school shootings are committed by white people.
And then
I'm saying what proportion of white people have committed school
he gets
shootings.
Even more dishonest.
Are you playing dumb, or are you just not that smart?
What difference does that make to the children lying dead on the ground?
See, now you want to jump on the victims. The difference is you're asking, would you fear white people or black people? And that's the difference. The difference is in terms
what I'm saying to you is by your ability.
That is literally the argument. He says this whole thing starts with, the clip that this debate spawns from is, white people are totally justified in crossing the street, blah, 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 or avoiding black people altogether. And Piers makes it, well, what about what white people do? Shouldn't people fear white people? Like, that is how this whole debate started. And it's because he wanted to avoid the points that were being made. So now we're here, and then Piers says, no, that's not what I'm saying. And that's what was shitty about this whole thing. It was just like, at least own your positions. Like,
logic If we
Sack
now have
up,
agreed
dude.
that the vast majority of mass shootings in schools are committed by white people and predominantly young white men, then presumably your advice would be to avoid young white men because they
No,
perpetrate these
because of-
massacres. But it won't be because they're white, right?
So are you playing dumb or are you actually dumb?
Maybe
It's
I'm
about
dumb.
proportionality.
Maybe I'm dumb.
You are because you're, well, I don't think you are dumb. I think you're smart actually, but you're deliberately avoiding per capita. And everybody knows that's the difference. What proportion of white men are school shooters?
He'll
It's
never
probably
pull that up.
0.00001%. What proportion of black men have committed violent crimes? It's probably like 5%. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but it's very high. And I would add to that, even as it concerns schools, why do you think parents pay a super high property tax to live in a school district where there's white people? Because
And here's the other thing that I forgot to say. On this same sentiment, right? On this same debate, the other sort of defeater to this position of like, oh, well, what about the white school shooters? Is to just point out the fact that what he's talking about, and he is careful enough to say mass shootings because he tries to go back on this later. And the reason he says mass school shootings is because if you just did school shootings, period, like shootings that are taking place at schools, guess what? Guess who the perpetrators still are? So, and he doesn't want to say that because that will destroy his whole position. It will destroy this whole argument. And progressives never want to go there because it will destroy their whole argument as well. On the whole, like, oh, well, white people make up more school shooters. No, they don't actually. It's just if you control for mass casualties, like which is like 3 or more. But if you extrapolate now, then if you say, what about all mass shootings? Guess what? Guess who still leads those numbers too? And that's because of gang violence. So it's, it's shitty because it's like we can't talk about this. You know what I mean? Like we have to, in order to fix this, we first have to be able to talk about it. If we can't talk about it without dumbass fucking boomers or progressive liberals telling us we're racist for even bringing up the numbers, then how in the fuck are we supposed to fix it? Like, I have children. I don't want to tell my children to avoid any people. I don't want to be racialized in growing up. But at the same time, I see where the attitudes are towards white people, and my kids are very white. Okay, I'm Hispanic. I got some Spanish in me. Okay, and you can kind of see like whatever. But my kids are not, dude. They definitely took after their mothers. Their mother, and they have blonde hair and blue eyes, and it fucking affects me. It bothers me to see the attitude of the country and of the world. It bothers me to know that there's only 6% of the global population that looks like my children. Okay? So but I don't want to feel that way. I want to be able to have a conversation with rational fucking individuals and try to reach a solution or a conclusion, or at the very least be able to address these things without being slapped with a label and threatened with my livelihood and being debanked and canceled. It's like, how the fuck are we supposed to fix the problem if we can't even talk about it?
they know that if they go to the black school, it's going to be the Bloods and the Crips. It's going to be gangs.
And I know Nick is hyperbolic, okay? But I'm just saying it in the sense that this specific point that he's made, which is like, nobody should feel sorry for wanting to go live in a mostly white neighborhood. Like, there's a reason why people want to do that. It's totally valid. And black people do it all the time. The black people that I know do not want to fucking live in the hood. Yes, they are super cute. Yeah, because my wife is German and Irish, so I mean, her genes just kind of took over there. And I've got some, it's like Spanish and then like uh what is it? Scotch, Irish, and French. So I mean, kind of just reverted back a little bit. Yeah, they
It's
are
going to be, you
very
talk about
cute.
school
They
shootings.
make me feel emotions, okay? And I don't want to feel emotions. Right? I don't need to feel emotions. I'm a man, damn it. But yes, I look at my children and it makes me I look at my children and it fucking radicalizes me, okay? Obviously, it has radicalized me. So I haven't been streaming as much. I can't talk about politics because it has radicalized me to some degree. And not in the sense that like I'm not even I'm like to the left of Nick a little bit. But yeah, it's a different you just look at shit differently when you have children and you take it a lot more seriously. And that's why I stopped doing a lot of the panel shows and stuff too, is because I'm like, I can't debate with little fucking weebs that are in their basement, in their grandma's fucking basement, who have never not only have they never experienced life, because that's enough in itself. Like when I was debating some of these people, and I'm like, I know you've never fucking held a shovel. I know you've never laid bricks. I know you've never put fucking shingles on a roof. You've never fucking turned a wrench on a car. You never changed your oil. Like you couldn't change a tire if your life depended on it. That's bad enough. But then once you have kids and you actually have skin in the game and you're fucking under the weight of the government and you're like, you know what I mean? Like fucking paying a shit ton of taxes and you're working your ass off and you have a career and you're paying 30, 40, $50,000 in fucking taxes and shit. And you're like, damn, dude. Like, first of all, I really care about where my fucking tax dollars are going. Okay. Second of all, I really care about the environment that my children are going to grow up in. And all of this stuff affects them, you know, politically, it affects them, on a policy level. And then culturally, it affects them on the attitude of the people around them, on that level. So it bothers the shit out of me. And I've definitely moved. I was definitely very like libertarian, like conservative, right, and I've definitely moved into another sort of like further right position. Not, not. I don't think necessarily where Nick is, but definitely I would consider myself a Christian nationalist. Probably more of an authoritarian, but really it's not like not in the sense that like I think I just understand that first of all, any state or any government is authoritarian. So I've just accepted that if we're understanding it by the correct definitions, you're not escaping an authoritarian government ever. If a government is going to be effective, it has to be necessarily authoritarian. But that's a whole different discussion. But I'm definitely more in favor of the state after having children too. So in the sense that like obviously I want my people to be informing the state, but I also understand that we need to have a strong state to protect us, to protect our borders, to protect the country, to go to war, to fight wars and defend the country. So yeah, definitely moved. Yeah, definitely changed the way I look at things 100%. So with Fred and his almost 3-year-old. Yeah. Took a break tonight. Yeah. Yeah, and the German's strong too. Yeah. Yeah, but it's totally changed my views 100% and in a good way. So, let's get back to this.
Nobody talks about all the school shootings that are committed by gangbangers in and around the school and all the other violence that's associated with that. I mean, these schools in the south side of Chicago, it's just not livable.
I have an answer for you, Nick. So the proportion of the population
See, and perfect, just on time. Now he's got some information to completely avoid what, completely disregard what Nick just had to say, which was that if we're just talking about school shootings in general, then yeah, I mean, look at the inner cities and
who carry out mass shootings is actually the same for black and white.
For white people, the proportion.
yeah, that's actually bad. That's what I don't think. I don't think he understands. Like,
Of not
the proportion
again,
of the
are you
population.
hearing it? No.
So
What's
I
the
think the trouble with
proportion?
see, that's a problem. I don't think he realizes. So Nick missed this too, because Nick is after a specific answer, which is justified. He's saying, how many of those white people shoot schools up? Okay. He's looking for a certain number and he knows that Piers is avoiding it. So he's pressing him on that. But what Piers just released there, what he just conceded there was that it is actually more dangerous then. Because if you're saying the same amount of white people and the same amount of black people shoot up the school, that's a problem because there are a lot more white people and there's a lot less black people. So if there's only 13 black people and there's 65 white people, and both of them have 7 people shooting up the school or something like this, for the white people, it's only a fraction. For the black people, that's over half. That's the whole point. That is literally the whole point that he's trying to make. So Nick misses this one here, the opportunity to kind of attack that and jump on that. But I understand why. It's because he's getting frustrated that Piers is just not answering the question properly, and his team is like missing the mark here tremendously in more ways than one. What some intentionally, like here, and then some
statistics is a lot of them
accidentally when
don't
they're
bear
trying to
much
help
scrutiny.
Piers.
We have a bunch of fact checkers checking all this in real time.
Oh yeah, I'm sure
because you do
do
have a tendency to just come out with a lot of old baloney. And when you say,
Okay.
well, it's true.
A load of old
And
baloney.
when you're confronted
What-
with,
but you're-
when you're
wait,
confronted
what's
with
the
reality,
figure?
you don't like it.
What's the figure? What proportion of white people have committed school shootings? With white people as the denominator and white people that have committed school shootings as the numerator, what's that percentage?
For both black and white.
Yeah, and then he just doesn't answer it, dude. He can't because he knows that number is going to be, which actually I'm curious because I want to see this now. I want to see this now. Let's grok it, dude. Out of, whatever. How many white people total in America commit school shootings? It's funny too because he literally laid it out, the exact formula for him. He gave him the formula and he just completely disregards it. He knows that he knows he can't answer that. We grokked it. We grokked it, boys. No, don't do history. God dang. This is why I don't like Grok sometimes. All these AI bots. You got to be careful, even with Grok, okay? I know Grok is like Elon Musk's and it's like supposed to be based. It's not, okay? They're all pushing the same woke narrative. And it's weird. That's what pisses me off about people like Piers Morgan, people like Elon Musk, and there's a handful of other people who've been trying to say this, like, oh, woke is dead now. We want. No, the fuck, we did not. No, we did not. We have not won. Woke is not dead by far. Piers Morgan is a great example of this. Okay, so is Elon Musk. So woke is not dead. One, oh my God. It's 0.000000785%. For context, this equates to roughly one white school mass shooter per 12.7 million white people, and that's over the past 6 decades. That's why he didn't want to do. That's why he didn't do that. Holy shit, that's crazy. 1 in 500,000 odds. Those are pretty good fucking odds for surviving. Okay. So when you ask, well, why shouldn't you be? Should you be scared of what? Should you be scared of white people at schools? Nick Fuentes. What a piece of shit, dude. That's why he didn't do the math. That's crazy. Yeah, and then it actually does the woke thing. It does the woke thing at the end. If you meant the reverse, i.e., the percentage of all school shooters who are white, this is approximately 55% based on the same data. It's all woke. That's what I'm saying. So perfect example, proving both of my points, okay? And Nick's. But man, that's funny. That's crazy though. 1 in 12.7 million. Wow. Wow.
It's the proportion of the population who carry out mass shootings generally is about the same.
And he didn't say the proportion of people who carry out mass shootings at schools. He said the people who carry out mass shootings.
No. Tell me the number.
Piers, you slippery little snake.
And yet the only focus of your attention is the black shootings, the black crime. You don't want to live around black people.
I wonder what Gary
avoid
thinks of all this.
black
I haven't
people.
talked to him in such
You
a
don't
long
want
time.
interracial marriages or relationships that may produce black people. And yet, when I point out to you that there are many parts of crime in America where actually there's a majority of white people that perpetrate them, you don't care. You don't have any interest in that. It doesn't exercise your mind. Maybe because
no one's buying this. This
kids.
argument lost. No one is buying this. Everybody understands per capita, and people can even see what you race ahead and say, well, we're comparing the proportion of white and black school shooters. I said, no, compare the proportion of school shooters that are white versus violent criminals that are black, because that was the basis of the monologue, is that you're very likely, if you encounter black people or a young black man in the city, that you're going to be the victim of a violent crime, of a robbery, a mugging, a car theft, a carjacking, or a murder. That's the difference, and it's about proportionality. And everybody sees past that because we all live in reality. You want to talk about product of your environment. People that live in New York, Chicago, LA, we live in reality. We live in this environment, and we see what it's like. And the threat, the danger, in terms of probability, it's not even comparable. And I would say this, to your point. If you're in a high school and truly, if you see a white person who looks like a little autistic, he's got the SSRI stare, and he reaches for a backpack, people joke and say, run. Similarly, if you see a jalopy pulling up with a bunch of black people in it and they got their pants around the ankles, you're going to run also. And I'm saying the same thing. The difference is, the latter happens much more often. It's much more common. In Chicago, there's like 10,000 carjackings and car thefts every day. It's in the thousands. It happens all the time. How many mass shootings committed by autistic SSRI white people? I don't even know. I mean, it's probably in the single digits in the last decade in this city. That's the difference, and everybody knows that. But you're really just trying to carry water for liberal ideology. It's an ideological position.
I'm really not. I can absolutely say, yes, there is way too much black on black crime, for example, involving guns in Chicago.
And black on white also.
Yes, but there is way too much gun violence in Chicago, right? I mean, it's indisputable. I've got no problem saying that. The difference is I don't then lead myself into a thought process where I have to avoid all black people in case they shoot me. And you've already conceded that you are a racist. So when people hear you then say, I don't want to be living anywhere near black people, they already have heard you say, I'm a racist.
They should be
so
happy
they assume
then.
you're doing that because of people's skin color. I don't think you would probably dispute that, right?
Well, you're separating two different things. The monologue, when I said I don't want to live around black people, that was after Irina Zarutska got shot, and it's true. I mean, they are a largely in this city in Chicago, the South Side, the West Side, huge criminal population, and I don't want to live anywhere near it. And I do. I want to live in a white neighborhood.
And neither do
I
any of
think
the black
that,
people. They
that's
all
extremely
leave.
desirable.
Again,
and I think
again,
even
Nick,
black people.
again, Nick, you're perfectly entitled to that view. But when you have obviously prefaced all this by saying, I am a racist,
Oh my God, Piers. It's like, oh, dude, this whole thing too is like, it's like when your friends are in, that's what I kept saying about this. It's like if your friend or if you are getting in trouble by the teacher and you're like being super sarcastic and like cracking jokes and shit, and all your friends are like trying not to laugh, or you're trying not to laugh at your friend. That's kind of what this was. It was like most of the shit just goes straight over Piers's head. Like they're a little serious here, but then Nick starts to just kind of meme a little bit, and it's like Piers doesn't even know what's happening.
Then people will assume that all your thought processes about all of these issues are driven by an aversion to people based on their skin color, which is the purest personification of racism.
Well, it's not an aversion. I would say it's the opposite. I like my own people. My own people are familiar to me, and I think that's true across the board.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. It's like most of this is just like it's normal to like be and everybody else is allowed to be a people. Everyone else is about to. Have you noticed that? Like everyone else is allowed to be a people, except for one group. Okay, you can have black people, you can have Hispanic people, you can have Chinese people, you can have Asian people, you can have, you know what I mean? You can have all the people, you can have Africans, you can have all the different countries, you can have all the different sects and all this stuff. You can be a people and you can say my people and this people and that. But as soon as you say white people, it's like, unless you're following that up with some problem that you have with them, or some problem that they have as a group, or some criticism of them as a group, you're not actually allowed to say a whole lot. You're not allowed to be like, well, yeah, I'm proud of my culture. I'm proud of my people. I like the way we look. I like the way my children look. I would like if my children looked like me. Everyone else can fucking say that. So, and it's like if I have a favorite meal, right? Like if I have a favorite sandwich, okay? I like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'm a peanut butter and jelly sandwich maximalist. Whatever the fuck. I don't know, okay? I only want peanut butter and jelly sandwiches ever, all the time. That doesn't mean that I'm going to go out to every restaurant that in a fucking 100-mile radius of me and demand that they take every other sandwich off the menu. No more Reubens, no more club sandwiches, no more grilled cheese, no more turkey sandwich. I mean, like, how stupid is that? You're just extrapolating. You're just saying, well, because you like your race and because you're proud of your race and because you appreciate this, that must then mean that you want to destroy all the other races, which is just such a crock of shit. So, anyways,
I think that people
like both
seek
can be
out
true.
other.
You can appreciate your race, your heritage, and your culture, and your history, and where you come from, and not want to destroy every other culture.
People that are like themselves, and every other group does this, whether it's blacks, Hispanics, Asians. You know, I get a lot of attacks when I talk about that I'm against interracial marriage. And what's funny is that every other group is against interracial or interethnic marriage. Jews,
but you're the
Chinese,
product of an
Hispanics.
interracial marriage.
And this is another whataboutism that doesn't actually matter. You can't, it's like, do you need, he didn't have any control over that, first of all. But second of all, it's like the same thing as whenever you try to make an argument about something. I mean, hell, about the black community is a perfect example. If you start to critique the black community, they all say, well, you're not black, so you can't speak on that. Which is like everybody knows that's retarded on its face. Okay. Anyone who's actually using their brain knows that's retarded. If I say doing heroin is bad, I don't need to be a fucking former heroin addict to know that doing heroin is bad. So you can't just say, well, you can't speak on that because you don't have an experience. And you can't, just like you can't say, well, you can't say that you're against that when you're a product of it. It's like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, that's debatable.
Not
Let's
really.
say for the sake
Not
of argument,
really.
sure.
No, you're the product of an interracial marriage, and your father.
And still further than that, it's like I don't agree fully on Nick's position on like interracial marriage. Like he's fully against it. I wouldn't say I'm against it. I would just say I prefer my children. I have my main requirement is that you're an Orthodox Christian. Okay, I'm. That's it. That's my main concern. Okay, is my daughter marrying an Orthodox Christian? Is my son marrying an Orthodox Christian? Second from that, then I want them to be American. Okay. Still further than that is then like maybe I would prefer if they looked like me, you know what I mean? And they looked like my children's, you know what I mean? Like if they looked like my son and my daughter, but it's not really like that high up on the list. Like I'm not, you know, but I get it. I get why, you know, I get where he's coming from. And I can even see like the biblical argument to be made there. Which would, if I'm steel manning, okay, the best the best good faith understanding of this that I could come up with would be that, you know, God created the nations and peoples and their times. I can't remember the exact verse or exactly how it goes, like word for word, but basically, He created all the races. Is essentially what the Bible says. So now that doesn't mean they can't mix together, but if you're pushing like a narrative in a way, like especially how progressives are in an attempt to erase a culture or erase a people group like white people, now that's a sin. Actually, that's actually bad. So I can see how, you know what I mean, there's an argument to be made there. That's like my best, I guess, interpretation of that.
Is part Mexican. You're literally,
for the sake of
you're
argument,
literally
we
the
can
very
say
person
sure.
you've just told me you want to
See if we can
avoid.
get to, there's like
What
maybe
race
one or
is
two more
Hispanic?
things
Is
I
that a
wanted
race?
to hear.
Well, what do you think it is?
I'm asking you, what race is Hispanic?
Hispanic. Of course it's a race. It's called Hispanic.
It's a mix between two races. It's a mix between indigenous
It's
Americans
not
and
white, though, is
Europeans.
it? It's not white.
Well, apparently you're more of a racial purist than me. You got like
Not
a
really. You just keep saying you only want to live in a white neighborhood, but you're literally from a
He's
mixed race
flailing.
background yourself.
That's the problem. Like all the parts like this is where it became obvious that Piers was waiting for answers in his ear. He had a specific dialogue tree, had a specific script. He thought things were going to go exactly the way he thought they were going to go, and they didn't. And when they didn't, and when he was asked questions like this, and he had to try to answer them, he just flounders. Like Piers is not a debater. He can't do this.
You've literally got Mexican blood.
I know, and I live in a non-white neighborhood too. I'm trying to get out of here, though. But I'm trying to get out. But here's the thing:
Do you have any non-white friends? Genuine question.
Most of my friends are non-white. Most of my friends are not.
So
and
dumb,
non-white
dude.
people
It's
love
all
my
so
show
pathetic.
because they respect the honesty.
How many of your friends are black?
There was a couple more things that I know the one thing that I wanted to kind of talk about too was that he talks about that again later on. Let me see. He says, "Oh, it's because I called Piers performative. It made me think of this." Later on, Piers Morgan actually questions Nick, basically saying like, "Oh, well, you're doing it for the money," which is a crazy statement to make because he was canceled from everything. And then there were some jokes that he was making about like the Holocaust or something. Which, listen, dude, I'll just say it was funny. Okay, I'm not gonna say I agree with Nick.
Crimes, do you?
I'm just saying.
No, because I know it's far fewer from experience.
Okay.
Because it's like you said. Well, and hang on. And I would add to that, the problem is there's I disagree.
The problem is that he pulls it. He like pulls this old fucking boomer guy up to whine about, and then right before that, he's like, you think Jewish people weaponize the Holocaust? And he's like, yeah. And then he's like, well, listen to this old guy complain about the Holocaust. I'm like, you can't.
Answered emphatically that you don't hate all Jews. Is that correct? That's your position.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to play you this clip.
And later on, I want to say too, though, that this was kind of funny. He says he doesn't hate anybody. Now, I don't know Nick personally, okay? But like I said, I can sympathize with some of the things that he's saying. I can understand what he's getting at. And I've listened to a good amount of Nick's show because I actually used to debate the Groypers back in the day. I used to debate some of them on these little panel shows and stuff like that. So he's said before anyways, he doesn't hate anybody because he's a Catholic, he's a Christian. I can relate to that. I can be very like aggressive, I can be very hyperbolic, I can say things. That doesn't mean I hate you. I don't even hate, I hate the sin. I don't hate the sinner. I don't hate the person, the human. We're not allowed to, behave that way as Christians. Like, you can't have pure hatred. You can't, because you're the same, and you are equal in a lot of ways as sinners. So yes, you can't hate people like that.
I don't hate any Jews. Let me just amend that. I don't hate any Jews.
Okay. Let's play this clip.
The reason I've had it is because my opposition to world Jewry and Israel is rooted in absolute, uncontestable fact. We have the truth on our side. That's why we're winning. Because we are telling the truth about the historical antagonism between Jews and Europeans, between Jews and Christians. The theological, historical, racial, cultural, and political antagonisms between organized Jewry and the Christians, organized Jewry and Europeans. And the reason that we are winning that argument is because it's real, it's true. I can prove it. I can show you. I can name the names. I can show you the paper trail, the money. That is why we're winning. That is why all of this is raising the consciousness.
When you say you have this opposition to world Jewry, I mean, it's one thing to criticize, for example, the Israeli government over what it's been doing in Gaza. I've done that myself. When you talk about...
This part is kind of boring because it's just like, he does the same thing. He explains himself and he says, well, I'm calling them what they call themselves. When they have these, they literally have these talks where they call it, the organized Jewry, something Jewry, global, whatever. Am I not allowed to also now call them what they call themselves?
Jewry, I presume you're talking about the 15 million Jews in the world, and you are opposed to them. How does that square with your position that you don't hate any Jews?
Well, do you take issue with my use of the term?
And also, again, being in opposition to something does not mean you hate the thing or that person. It depends on the context. But for example, I would be opposed to prostitution, pornography, all of that, drugs. That doesn't mean I hate prostitutes and degenerates and drug users, because I was a degenerate retard when I was a kid. When I was younger, I did drugs and I had sex outside of wedlock and I was a fucking idiot and partying. So I can understand why those things are attractive to some people and they're trying to escape things, whatever. But I don't hate that. I don't look at that person and say they need to be eradicated from the face of the earth. It's not like that. But do I think that sin needs to be eradicated? Yes, 100%. So, and if a person refuses to reject that stuff, then yes, you are. I don't want to be around you. I don't want to see you. I don't want you to feel comfortable in society. Okay. And that's not hatred. Like, that's what people don't understand about, like, the version of Christianity that we've been given in America. It's broken. Like, it's fragmented. It's not the Christianity that was given to us by the disciples and by Christ. Tolerance is not a Christian virtue. I don't have to tolerate my neighbor having prostitutes and selling drugs out of their house and trafficking people, and you know what I mean? It's like, what are we talking about? Like, no, I don't accept that. And then if you want to enjoy those things, and if you want to enjoy prostitutes, and you think that that stuff is good, I want to publicly shame you for that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's the opposite. It's like, well, I don't have to explain to you why, abortion is a funny one for this, for example. It's like, for the longest time, for the origins of abortion, and what a lot of abortion debates get caught up in is is people explaining themselves to the abortionist, to the person who is pro-abortion and pro-choice. They are explaining themselves like, well, this is why I'm against. It's like, I don't have to explain to you why it's bad to kill children. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to explain. You need to explain to me how you came to this understanding that it's okay to just sacrifice children for whatever reason. All right, give me 2 seconds. We're having a little baby emergency. Let me make sure everything's okay. All right, give me just a second. All right. Nothing too crazy. We're just not sure. I think baby's crying a lot, so wife's gonna take her to the doctor. Kind of unnatural. Anyways, I don't know where we're at. Let's continue. We'll try to get through a little bit more of this, and then I'm gonna play like, I don't know, 20 or 30 minutes of video games, then go to bed. I know, dude. Well, and I mean, I don't know. She knows how she's been, so I don't know what to do sometimes, dude. My wife, she's stay at home, so it's like she's with him all the time. So if she's like, "Hey, this is abnormal. This is not," you know, then I'm like, "All right, whatever. All right, take her." But then now we have my son here, so and he's sleeping, so I'm like, "All right, well, I'll stay here with him and then see what happens." Played Minecraft from took my day off. Nice. Yeah, I need to do the Minecraft streams again. I'm so bad at Minecraft. It's funny. Minecraft is chill though. I had to sell my other gaming rig though. Well, I didn't have to, but I kind of wanted to just to make sure whenever we were having, like after we had my son, just to. Yeah, it's tough though because it's like I'm making really good money now doing what I'm doing, but then having her stay at home makes it seem like not so much sometimes. So, but we're doing pretty good.
World Jewry.
All right, let's see what this is about.
What do you mean by that?
Would you take issue with it? Do you have a problem with that?
Clarify what you mean by it.
Well, it's funny you bring that up. The gaslighting's crazy because I use that expression on my show all the time. I say organized Jewry, world Jewry. And do you know that for like 30 years, the World Jewish Congress has an annual keynote called the State of World Jewry? Barry Weiss has given it. You can look it up. It's on YouTube. She gives the State of World Jewry address.
What do you mean by it?
I mean, you have to talk about, there's a concept of Jewish peoplehood. It's the sense that they are part of a common nationality, a common tribe, a common people. And so where they reside in Israel, the United States, or Europe, or elsewhere, they see each other above or maybe on a different level alongside their
yeah, that's the funny thing. If she worked like she would have to make. Yeah, it's like it would be so much more money. She would have to make almost what I make, which is I'm making like what we both used to make, a couple of years ago, like combined. So yeah, so it's like if she worked and we had to pay for daycare, first of all, God Almighty, I can't imagine somebody else watching my kids. But if we were able to find someone to babysit or had to pay for daycare, it would be ridiculous. It'd be ungodly. She would have to make what I make, and it's like, well, then what's the point? So then she should be home. So, but yeah, we figured it out.
Nationality, their state, wherever they reside. If they're in Germany, France, the United States, they see themselves as part of a transnational nation, of an international nation. The Jews in America, the Jews in Israel, they identify as Israeli or American, but they also have something in common. They identify as part of a common nation, which I would say there's a world Jewish population. It's world Jewry. And world Jewry has representatives. There is such a thing as the World Jewish Congress, where they actually elect, it's democratic, all the local Jewish organizations elect representatives to represent proportionally the Jewish population in their area at the World Jewish Congress. And it's sort of like Davos. It's like the World Economic Forum, but it's exclusively for members of the Jewish nation that exists across the world. And so that's a real thing. And I didn't make that up, and that didn't come from 4chan. It's like I said in that clip. I read what they write. I read their books. I watch these speeches. I watch a speech from Barry Weiss. I pay very close attention. So that's what I mean by that. There is such a thing as it's a nation that exists across borders on a global scale. They're organized, and they have a national self-interest as that nation, as that tribe.
So if you don't hate any Jews, what do you like about them?
I like a lot of things about them. I think they're funny. I think they're smart. I think that they're pretty remarkable people. And as Christians, especially as Catholics, we say they're remarkable. And this has been adjudicated in Catholic doctrine for thousands of years. We say that they're a witness people. And so we actually, there's provisions inside of Catholic doctrine that says we need to give them special protections because they were a witness to Christ's passion. So, this is why you can't clip the show. You have to watch the whole thing. I say this repeatedly in interviews. I do think they're remarkable. By definition, they're exceptional people. It's just that there is a sort of natural opposition between them and Christians because of the theology. We believe that Christ is a Messiah. They don't. They have been a minority in Christian lands for thousands of years, and they've been pushed around and expelled, and they've been persecuted and segregated, and that's why there's a lot of paranoia. There's a lot of distrust. There's maybe some sense of chauvinism among Jewish people. So there is, like I said in that clip, there is an historical antagonism between these two peoples, between Christendom and Jewry, and that has always been the case in Europe. But I don't hate them, and I think I actually sort of understand them in a weird way. I think that because I've studied a lot of their politics, I think I really kind of know them in a way. It doesn't come from a place of hatred.
Do you have any Jewish friends?
I do. I have many, yes.
Well, that's weird because you said this.
Jews and Christians have never been friends, ever. Not since Jesus Christ fought with the Pharisees. Have we?
Oh my God, I forgot about this. This was quite possibly the dumbest Piers boomer gotcha I've ever seen. I honestly was like, is this real? Like, are you serious?
Have we ever been friends? Not since Saul was leading the charge persecuting the Christians. Not since the Roman Empire, not since the Middle Ages. Never. We've never been friends. We've never been allies. We've always been set against each other, actually. And even here in the United States, it was communist Jews who were the architects of both communism and the civil rights laws that are dispossessing white Christians of their land and civilization.
The Jews and Christians have never been friends ever, except for you and your Jewish friends.
Yeah, so easy. As peoples, as nations.
Got it.
Not saying every individual Christian, and of course there have been Christians and there have been Christian converts to Judaism, Jewish converts to Christian. You're nodding your head, but you're asking this. I'm saying as peoples, they've never been aligned.
As a Roman, I'm a Catholic like you, and I have many Jewish friends. I'm just trying to compute what.
What the fuck? I'm just trying to compete, man. I'm just trying to compete, brother. Gotta get some beans and toast, mate. Can I get a bit of spotted dick? Fucking stupid Brit bonger. It's just like the dumbest shit. Christians and Muslims are not friends, okay? But I have people that are Muslim that I know that I would consider friends. It's like the dumbest fucking shit. Yes, it's a broad statement. As a whole, as groups, as this group and that group, they're not friends. They don't get along. They've never got along. But he's like, he thinks this is like a fucking slam dunk. Like, do you have any Jewish friends? Oh yeah, mate. Well, about this clip here where you said Jewish and Christians have never been friends. You're a liar. It's like, dude, what the fuck are we doing, man? Fuck is going on? Are we like in middle school? Is this like elementary? You said your favorite color was red, but and you would never wear a blue shirt, but that one day you wore a blue shirt. It's like, well, yeah, Piers, because all my other fucking shirts were dirty, you dumbass. Like, what? Am I going to come to school shirtless? Like, what are we talking about here? You're a hypocrite, mate.
You're trying to say, which is Jews and Christians have never been friends ever. And I'm like, well, you have Jewish friends. I have Jewish friends. We're both Catholics. Therefore, we're Christians. So it doesn't really quite add up.
Oh my God, Piers, dude, what the fuck? That whole thing is just a clip, dude. That's crazy. That's crazy.
You're asking this. I'm saying as peoples, they've
No,
never
I hear
been
you.
aligned.
As a
There's been an
Roman, I'm a
antagonism.
Catholic
Okay.
like you, and I have many Jewish friends. And I'm just trying to compute what you're trying to say, which is Jews and Christians have never been friends ever. And I'm like, well, you have Jewish friends. I have Jewish friends. We're both Catholics. Therefore, we're Christians. So it doesn't really quite add up.
Doesn't really quite add up, mate. Crikey.
Well, like I said, as peoples, there has been an historical antagonism as peoples. And you could even say the same about...
I hate this. This interview pissed me off, to be honest. And it's like, I'm not even really that, you know, I would say I'm definitely somewhat of a fan of Nick's. You know what I mean? But I'm not I wouldn't consider myself a groiper. Like, I don't know what the fuck that really means, but I'm not like a simp, you know, for Fuentes. I just thought that this was the worst showing Piers has ever had. I mean, this was just terrible. Like, he didn't even try. And it's like this what Nick could have gotten. I mean, Dean Withers did a better job debating Nick Fuentes. All these dumbass progressive leftists, like when Nick Fuentes debated with Destiny and with Hassan and with Vosh in the past and all these panels that he used to go on, they did a much better job of actually addressing the issues. Piers just was like, well, you said this, mate. You said that makes you racist. Oh, you said you're racist. And then he doesn't have anywhere to go. It's like, it's all just
blacks in the United
moral
States. Of
grandstanding.
course, there were black and white people that were friendly with each other, but
It was just
in many
pathetic,
ways,
dude.
they were set against each
It
other
just-
as
it
groups.
just reminds me
and
of,
I think
you
that's
know,
easy enough to understand.
The reason that many people think you're anti-Semitic is that you have
COVID
regularly
cancellation all over again,
downplayed
the 2016
the
and
Holocaust,
2019,
and in particular the number of Jewish people who were murdered by the Nazis. It's been said that you believe no more than several 100,000 have been killed. And I want to play you this clip.
People talk about, well, you know, what about the gas chambers? Well, to the extent that that's real, I find that hard to believe, but to the extent that's real, there have been atrocities committed and genocides committed in all times and all places. Let's acknowledge why Hitler casts the long shadow, because that confers a political benefit upon Jews. That's why.
It doesn't really sound correct to me. Wait a second. It takes 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies, and you have 15 ovens, probably in 4 different kitchens, right? Doing 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years. How long would it take you to make 6 million? I don't know. It certainly wouldn't be 5 years, right? The math doesn't seem to add up there.
You think that's funny?
It's funny. It's amusing what you're doing because, you know, that one was a joke. But do you want to talk seriously about
it? It is funny. Like,
yeah,
it is.
I mean, I do, because I just...
It is funny. Okay, Piers, it fucking is. It just is. You stupid boomer.
I find it extraordinary that you would think the Holocaust could ever be something that we could joke about.
Ever. That's what's crazy, okay? Ever. Never, ever. But Ben Shapiro and all the other Jews and all that stuff will make jokes and laugh all the time about all the dead Palestinian babies and shit, right? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, and that happened, it's still happening now. So it's like, can we make jokes or can we not make jokes? Or can we question anything anymore? So.
Why, too soon? Is it too soon to make jokes?
How many people do you think died in the Holocaust? How many Jewish people?
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe 7 million. What's the number? 6 million, something like that.
So you
8 million?
You concede that 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust?
Possibly more. Possibly, we're discovering all the time. So it could be, maybe even be more than that.
So why have you doubted the numbers in the past?
I'll tell you why. I really think that every death is a tragedy, however many Jewish people died in the Holocaust.
He just doesn't get it.
And I'm not a World War II historian, so I'm actually open to believing the official narrative, and I've read some of the conspiracy theories. And to tell you the truth, it's a rigorous debate. But what's interesting about this is in many countries, it's not even legal to talk about it. And that's really where my interest in the Holocaust begins and sort of ends, to tell you the truth, is that if you wanted to question the number, you would be put in jail in about, 17 or 18 European countries. And I think that's really the more interesting conversation, which is that this is almost like a religious dogma in the West. No other genocide, no other atrocity is treated like this. Could you imagine if in the United States they said the number of Palestinians killed in Gaza is 100,000, and if you don't say that, you're going to jail, you're banned on X, you can't have a job? That's the part that's totally insane. And a lot of people, they can't even make up their minds. I think it's actually done a disservice. If your goal, and I'm not saying you as Piers Morgan, but if you're an advocate for awareness about this, if your goal is to convince everybody that this is the way the Holocaust happened, I think the last thing you want to do is say that everyone that disagrees is in jail and is banned and you're not allowed to say it. So there's really been no open debate about the subject since the scholarship started to be produced about 60 years ago.
There is no debate to be had about the number of people.
That's what's crazy. It's just like, that's the point. That is the point. Every other dude, people talk about the Holodomor all the time. As a Christian, okay, we say possibly like 60 million or 80 million Christians, if not more, were genocided in Russia. Okay, that's a debatable. We can debate about the numbers on that. We can debate about the numbers who died fighting to stop the Holocaust. We can debate how many troops died on D-Day. How many American troops died in World War II? How many German troops died in World War II? How many Russian troops? How many NATO soldiers? I mean, everything else is up for debate except for one number. Everything else set in stone. We can debate the amount of slaves that were brought over in the transatlantic slave trade. If I can speak, I'm getting tired. We can debate every other number ever, every questionable figure ever, except this one. They apparently have all the sources, all the data, everything backs them up. And guess what? There's only one source. And it's all from the same organization. And those numbers didn't come out and get updated until like the 70s. So at the time, it was significantly lower, and they weren't necessarily sure, and the waters were a little muddy, and they, because it's war, and because all the documents were destroyed, and because all the evidence was destroyed, and all the people were destroyed. But then somehow in the 70s, all of a sudden we got perfect records, and it was never to be questioned from then. That's just a fair point to make. I'm not saying, I'm not going to make any hard statements on it. But the point remains true, is that that's exactly why he does this. He's an iconoclast. He's there to do this on purpose. He wants you to be mad. He wants to fucking make fun of this situation because it is ridiculous.
Who were murdered. Even the Nazis in the trials after the war confirmed the numbers. The amount of documentation that was recovered, notwithstanding the attempts by the Nazis to destroy it, the amount of documentation that was saved and preserved and used for trials and for historical record is unprecedented in the history of mass slaughter of human beings. So we have a very clear idea of how many people were gassed to death in the gas chambers. We have a very clear idea of how many were starved to death, were kept in ghettos, died of disease, of forced labor, of death marches. We know how many Jews were slaughtered. It's at least 6 million. What's interesting to me is that you appear to now concede that, which maybe news to a lot of your regular viewers who have constantly heard you quibble with the number of Jews who died in the Holocaust. And for the record, just to confirm what I think you told me, you do now accept that at least 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust.
Well, no, I said it could even be higher than
well,
that.
it could be
It
higher.
could be.
That is
I think
true.
it's at least.
But you
I think
accept
you're right.
at least.
It is at least. Oh, it's at least 6 million. But
Okay.
it could be 100
well,
times
people
more
are
than
going to be
that.
okay. The people are going to be.
Let me respond to the rest of your question.
Sure.
What you're saying, I understand where you're coming from when you say it has been documented and there are confessions and so on. Let that speak for itself. But you don't see, your show is called Piers Morgan Uncensored.
Yep.
But the United Kingdom is censored and Europe is censored. And if you talk about these things, you will be put in jail in many countries. And I think that's where a lot of people start to say, well, if the truth is so clear and if there's such overwhelming evidence, why do you need to throw people in jail for disagreeing? And you yourself said, well, there is no debate. I think everything is debatable. I think everything at least should be debated. And if the evidence is very one-sided, let the evidence speak. Don't throw people in jail. So do you think that Holocaust denial laws should be overturned?
I don't particularly agree with Holocaust denial laws. I don't think people should be imprisoned.
Okay.
Well, because I have a blanket view now, which has evolved slightly actually over the years, that I have a blanket view that speech should not be criminalized, right? People should be allowed to say what they want to say, and they should be then
he says
made accountable for what they say. If you have an employer, they can make a view about whether you are the
because that's not really a matter of interest to me. And there's a lot of analysis and scholarship on both sides of the issue. And I've read both sides of the issue.
Anyways, that was a funny
It was
bit.
also really fucking cool.
Do you regret saying that?
Oh my God, dude. It just goes on and on. I forgot how much shit there is in this. Yeah, it's just like, okay, Stalin, Hitler, Caesar, Napoleon, name any, great king, the controversial, all of them did controversial things. Okay, but as men, and not even just as men, but as historians or people who just enjoy it, it's fine to look at a character and say, like, objectively they were a powerful individual, or in this case, he makes these fucking memes, or there's these memes that go around and they're like his aura, like the German party at the time had aura, and objectively they had Hugo Boss designing their uniforms. Okay, objectively they just did. Okay, there's a reason why whenever they make movies about this stuff, it's so fascinating. All right, when they make like Man in the High Tower and the aesthetics are just incredible. They're ridiculous. Okay, that doesn't mean you have to. That doesn't mean you love everything about that. But just to say that, like, they were kind of fucking cool, or like this person or that person was kind of fucking cool. You can understand what someone means when they say that, especially in a fucking manner like that, like in a joking manner. So there was that. I think, I don't know, we can't get through all of this, but I know the other things that I wanted to talk about were like the fact that he attacked him on his Catholicism, like he attacked him for being a virgin, when Nick Fuentes has been very open about the fact that he is one, and that he is waiting till marriage, and that he wants to have a family, and that he's not, he doesn't support any of this degeneracy. So, I mean, it's like, it's actually kind of respectable that he would do that, especially given his stature. He could easily, you know what I mean, sleep with whoever he wanted for the most part. So that was kind of funny. And then it's funny for two reasons too, because it turns out Piers Morgan's like basically in an open marriage or something with this lady, and he's like, I'm a Catholic and you're not a Catholic, but I'm a Catholic. And it's like, well, I don't think, you want the Pope to denounce Nick Fuentes. I think the Pope should denounce you for having an open marriage. I mean, what are we talking about here? That's not very Catholic of you, for your wife to be out there basically bragging about all the people she sleeps with, and talking about how she's taking a 6-month sabbatical to go sleeping around with different men. That's not very Catholic, Piers. So
saying a fact? No, that's absolutely true.
Rather than Stalin's, it may all be a big
favor of genocide.
They brought this guy on to wine, and after he just got finished saying that they don't weaponize.
It's for this. It's for all of this.
Yeah,
and the
it's about what happened to his extended family.
This was funny, actually.
About it.
Up like, and you know,
tell me.
That was actually funny.
The edits, it's just cool. The uniforms, the parades, it's cool as a guy. You look at World War II, and it's fascinating, and it's interesting, and it's compelling, and it's cool. And you know, we're just tired of saying these kinds of things. We want to talk like real people and give our honest opinions, and then we literally get an old Jewish guy.
Yeah, seriously, because it's like, whose idea is that? Like, we are taught in school about all this shit. Like, we know that, like, we can't do that shit. We know we're not supposed to do that shit. But it's like, we can't even talk about, we can't even, like, say this shit was kind of cool. We can't say that. And that's what's crazy. Because even at the time, listen, that specific brand of National Socialism, okay, was highly effective in terms of what it did for the economy. And I'm talking about post or pre-war, okay? Just leading up to the war, okay, before shit got weird and there was a war, okay? He turned the country around. Objectively turned the country around. When people were burning wheelbarrows of cash to stay warm because it wasn't worth anything, to being a global superpower, okay? Objectively, the system worked. And the New York Times even wrote an article about him. He was the man of the year. Okay, so even at the time, people were fascinated with him. Before the war, during the war, and then even after the war. And then all of a sudden it became like, you can't say anything remotely positive about this person ever, or you're going to fucking die in a fire. We're going to come after you. We're going to kill you. We are going to destroy your life, your reputation, your livelihood. We're going to debank you. We're going to take everything from you, even if you just make a fucking joke, like, or even if you just say, that's a cool edit. Like, and that's crazy. Okay, that's just insane.
From England who's going to say, oh, that's not very funny, mate. Me mom. And it's like, shut up. Like, you know, no one is in favor of genocide. So let's just get that out of the way. We're not in favor of a Holocaust or genocide.
Do you think if half your family
had been,
you think if half your family had been wiped out by very fucking cool Hitler, you'd still think he was very fucking cool? Or would you think that actually he was a despicable monster who murdered 12 million people, who targeted people because they were disabled or Jewish or Romani Gypsy or whatever it may be, and that he systematically destroyed people, incinerated them in gas chambers? Do you think that you would find it very fucking cool if your family had been through that? Or do you think you would find it very fucking disgusting? And perhaps moderate the number of times you laugh about it, or want to joke about it, or want to abuse someone like Danny Finkelstein, who's written incredibly powerful.
And that's what's so gay about all of this. Every single person who is alive today could point to some ancestor on any side of their tree who has been abused, enslaved, victim to whatever. Okay, so it's like, how far back do we go? How who gets to be the perpetual victims forever and ever? Amen. It's like, come on, dude. Like, yeah, I agree with this, just to the extent that, like, you know, I don't have to say Hitler was cool. Like, I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying, like, people are allowed to say things like that. You know, Nick has things to say that about like admiring Stalin or whatever. Like, he admires the power and the way that he came into power, and basically the way that he turned Russia from like, you know, a farming country into like a global superpower. Okay. Objectively, that's just true. I agree with that to some extent. It is. Stalin also is a fascinating character. Mussolini's a fascinating character, and so is Hitler. They all killed Christians. We are victims of this. Nick is also a Christian. Like there were more Christians killed during the Bolshevik Revolution than there were by like 10 times more over than there were in the Holocaust. Do I need to hate Russians for the rest of my life? Do I need to hate, you know, can we never joke about this thing? If somebody makes a joke about, you know, the Christian Holocaust in Russia, if it's funny, I'm going to laugh. But either way, even if it's not funny, I'm not going to be like, you think that you really, bro? You really think that was funny? I'm not going to say, I'm not going to be outraged because they're making jokes about dead Christians. I'm going to be pissed that you made a bad joke. I'm going to be like, dude, that kind of sucked, dude. That wasn't even like a good joke. That was kind of shitty. You know, if it's a really shitty joke, I'm just going to say that was a really shitty joke. That sucked. But if they were attempting to make, you know what I mean? It's like, it's all about your intent too. But it's like, it's not that deep, bro. Like, I wasn't around for that. I know, okay? The only thing that's really going to irritate me is if you're blaspheming Christ, if you're, you know, promoting heresy and degeneracy and stuff like that. I mean, but that's just because that's ongoing and it affects the current world. Making a joke about that stuff or whatever, it's not going to change the future. Like ultimately, your dogmas and your religions, your religion has a specific belief set on how they treat the rest of the of people, and that is what gets them in trouble. Okay, when you look at yourselves as superior to everybody else, and you look at everyone else as literally cattle to be used as a means to an end, like Muslims and like Jews do, you are going to inevitably have problems with everybody that you come across. That's why nobody wants Muslims in their country. Okay. Muslims operate in the same manner, in the same fashion. They're just not as covert. They're just not as, they don't have the same level of stealth, if you want to call it that. I don't know. But yeah, when your religion basically tells you that it's okay to lie and subvert to people and that everyone else is less than you and that you are the chosen people to the extent that other people are actually there to be subservient to you, that's going to cause a lot of problems to you. That's a choice that you made to believe in this thing that clearly seems false and illogical and wrong and sinful. Like you can feel it in your gut. You know that that's not a thing. That's not a good thing to do. So that's you're making the choice to keep that mindset, to adopt that mindset and hold on to it and say, everyone else is beneath me and I'm going to use them, okay, like cattle and treat them like animals. All right. That's on you. It's if everyone else, it's like
books about
whatever. I think I made my point, but it's, yeah. So whatever, dude. The hate is not always unjustified.
what happened to his extended family at the hands of the Nazis and your other hero, Stalin. See, my point to you, Nick Fuentes, is that in parts of this interview, you try to come across as moderate, but every now and again, the mask slips. And it slipped again here with what you say about Hitler. There's nothing very fucking cool about Hitler. We know that from history now. We know what he did. You've already conceded that he murdered at least 6 million Jews. So when you say he's very fucking cool, Jewish people watch this and go, this guy's disgusting. Why would he say this about someone who perpetrated such an evil? And what's the real answer? Why do you? Is it just for clicks? Is it for money? Is it just for fun? For shits and giggles? What is it? What motivates you to say something like Hitler was very fucking cool?
It's for this. It's for all of this. And the lack of self-awareness is amazing. You're a boomer. You're a 60-year-old boomer. And we've spent maybe 3 minutes on you saying, he's a really fucking monster. He incinerated people. And I'm sitting here saying it's not that serious. It's not that deep. And
not that
what
serious.
I'm getting at.
Not that serious.
Do you want to say more about he's a monster?
You're not a kid yourself anymore. You're not a teenager.
I know.
Right? You're nearly 30, to be clear.
Yeah,
okay? You're a fully formed adult who has a brain, right? And at some stage, that brain is taking you off these rabbit warrens.
Is this an interview or is this a lecture? Can I respond to what you're saying?
I want you to explain why you think it's fine to say how fucking cool Hitler is and to dismiss the very powerful 90 seconds from a British journalist who lost a lot of family members to the Nazis in such a callous, dismissive manner.
I don't think it's powerful. I think we've been hearing that our entire lives, okay? The Schindler's List. Let's just be honest. The propaganda is over the top. We have been brought in America.
What about the Schindler's List? Tell me about the Schindler's List. Well, tell me about the Schindler's List.
I'll tell you about it. We have been browbeaten as a people, as Americans, as Westerners, for our entire lives. And do you know what this has done? It has taken away any sense of pride, any sense of love for our own civilization. We have been made the villain in our own story. We have been made because, well, let's just be clear. It doesn't begin and end with Hitler is a monster. This has been the political narrative, which is why we have thrown open the borders. This is a political narrative, which is why we can't be a conservative society as a whole anymore, why we can't be proud of Europeans, why we can't be proud of being Christian, because they've told us if you're too white and too proud and too Christian, it's going to lead to a Holocaust. And so my generation, our entire lives,
honestly, Nick Fuentes,
and that's why people like me. That's why I'm popular, because this is bullshit.
Honestly,
yeah, it's a crock. We don't want to hear any more about me mom and me dad. That's a crock of shit.
No, listen. What you just said is a crock of shit. And you know
true. It's called the open society.
In your gut, you know it is. You weaponize this stuff.
You know.
You weaponize this stuff for money, but you know when you say something like what you just said.
I'm banned from banking. I'm banned from banking and credit cards. You know who you're talking to? I do it for money.
And by the way,
how much money you make? Your company's worth $100 million. Your company's worth $100 million. I was banned from Bank of America.
And you shouldn't
I'm banned from processing credit cards.
And you shouldn't have been.
But I am. So don't.
But he is, and then you would celebrate that. Like you and all the progressives and all these fucking weirdos, like you guys think that's the bee's knees. Like you guys thumbs that up. So it's like, you can't. I don't believe you. I don't believe you when you say that. And we shouldn't believe you when you say that.
Don't tell me I'm doing it for money.
Well, ask me my opinion about that. I'll tell you shouldn't have been. Right? I don't agree with that. What happened to you?
Then don't say I'm doing it for money, because you know that full well, and you say it's a grift.
How much money
If I wanted to be a grifter, I'd be.
And again, it's like Piers just can't with it. It's like he's such a weasel. Like he never addresses what's being said. He just asks another question. He's making a very valid point, which is like, I'm banned from banking. How the fuck can you tell me I'm doing it for money when I'm banned from? I got banned from Bank of America. They closed my account. They froze all my money and blah 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 blah. And then he's like, so don't tell me it's about the money. And then Piers is like, well, how much money are you making? Like what do you mean? After he escaped containment, after he got around the debanking, it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? So
be like you, and I would go and say,
how much money are you making?
I'm making a lot of money now.
Yeah.
Now that I'm the #1 live streamer in America, because people agree with me more than they agree with you. We're tired of hearing about slavery and the Holocaust and Jim Crow. We're done hearing about that. You guys overplayed your hand.
I'm not done hearing about that.
Okay, well, your generation's on the way out, and Generation Z is coming up, and we're finished with that. We're ready to take our country back.
I've got 3
we're
sons.
not listening
I've
to
got 3
minorities
sons
anymore.
I've got 3 sons, and they don't share your views.
Well, that's because they're watching their dad allow their mother to gallivant around and sleep with numerous amounts of men. So their father is literally a cuck. is literally a cuckold. So how can they not be pussies? They would have to be, because if it was my father, I would probably beat the shit out of him. I'd be like, dude, what is wrong with you? What are you doing? You're a disgrace. Like, I am disowning you as a father. That's what I would say. Both of you disowned.
About slavery and about the Holocaust. They can have decency and compassion and humanity about some of the worst things that have happened in the last 150 years.
I think we made
they can do that, and they can also have concerned views about issues like immigration.
I'll get married later. It's been difficult for me because people are shooting at me at my house. I don't know. Oh, you should see my DMs.
Yeah.
Do you think your views on women?
You're a virgin. Women should have rights and blah, 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 whatever. He was just going on and on, dude. It was crazy.
But you've grown increasingly disillusioned, I think it'd be fair to say. Let's play a recent clip from you about, do you think...
The Donald Trump stuff.
It's very passionate. I'm actually at the event, texted me.
You're a paid-up hire of the government. So
consequently,
was outrageous.
That's a little ironic. I said that's hypocritical. And Vance is going to have to explain to all of his.
This was actually the only time that I thought Piers was going to possibly have the upper hand was doing the debate on like the Trump lost the 2020 election fair and square or whatever. But he did a poor job. I mean, he didn't bring an argument to the table. Most of this was Nick explaining himself or explaining his positions or a position, and then Piers just being like, but you said you're a racist, but you said women shouldn't have rights, but you said blah blah blah, and it's like, okay, but you're not saying anything though. You're not actually saying anything. So it really did not go well for Piers. So, anywho, I think we'll do a little bit of gaming. I think we're gonna see if our friend. What are we doing over here?
The corruption in Minnesota surrounding the Somalis and the money that has been appropriated for them, but apparently,
yeah, I can't go all with it. We just need to play some video games. So let's play a couple games and then because I might need to be because I'm gonna need to be on call just in case the wife need to come out there. So we'll play like I don't know. Okay. Oh, did we do a new season already? Dude, I'm such trash at this game. Hello? Oh, there we go. Why is it so much bigger? There we go. All right, season 21. Does that mean we have a new season? Did we get an update? Not update. Great, just great. Want to play me game, mate? Just want to play me freaking video game? I can't do accents anymore. Big viewer stream view. Get out of here. All right. Yeah, I think it just updated. I close it. All right, let's see here. It's so bad. I actually used to be decent at accents and impressions, but I'm just rusty, dude. I guess I got to go watch more British people or something. Let's see. Let's see. Trying to find the thing I was. Can I get some damn? There we go. History. Yeah. I gotta watch more Piers Morgan. Dude, come on, man. Are the fucking servers down? Version mismatch. Get the latest version of the game. I have it. What is going on? Okay. How do I like look for updates? Well, this kind of sucks. Maybe we can't play. Servers may be down or something. Come on, dude. Did I really get on like right when they're like doing server maintenance or some shit? That would be nice. Let's see. I think they're like in the middle of doing the fucking thing, which is kind of annoying. Well, this is gonna suck. I haven't done these in a while. Just want to suck at these. I don't even think I can do this anymore. Oh my god, I barely made it. Harder with this car. Oh god. God. I'm so trash now. Doesn't help that I've had a couple of glasses. Motor skills are not present. Crap! Oh my gosh, dude, I'm so bad at this game. I'm gonna actually use speed decent. Oh gosh. I'm never gonna do this. The trouble is on this map, I used to have a skin on it where it painted the floor so you could like see like where you were going. When it's just that like plain color, like I can't tell where I'm at. Damn. This is not supposed to be this hard. This isn't even the hard one yet, dude. Can't get it to stop bouncing. Like, stop bouncing. No, not gonna happen. Yeah, it's gonna say version mismatch, but I'm not. There's no updates. I can't fucking update it anymore. There has to be like a patch, like right now. Because the only other thing I would do is restart the whole computer, but obviously I can't do that right now. Well, that might be it then. I wanted to play. What if I needed this? I wonder if it's Steam. See if we can get it like 1 or 2 games is really. Nope, it's just gonna fucking do this. Damn, so I do have the latest version of the game. Stupid piece of shit. All right, well, kind of a dud. All right, well, I guess that's it. We'll do it again probably Saturday night. I think we're doing stream at like 9 o'clock. So, all right, we'll catch you later. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. Have a good night.
Find the right words, and there's no way this is real life. There's no telling you're the right girl, so I can only say that if